Can it be that my body is just a vessel, and I need a captain to navigate this vessel through the ocean of my life? And it depends what kind of captain I have, because I can assign my brain as a captain, and that can be disaster because my brain likes to reason itself into destruction, since it's looking to satisfy its urges, and it's going to navigate the body into the abyss of impulses, where I hunt to satisfy my all urges throughout my life. And eventually the ocean will break this vessel, because if the vessel under control of the ocean, under control of the waves and the winds, then the first hidden rock will smash it, will crush it into oblivion. And that's why it's happening right now with our Western society. We place the brain on top of the hierarchy. We believe that intelligence is supposed to rule our bodies. But intellect always comes into obsession with itself. And we always reason our way through our addictions, try to normalize something that's not normal, and try to complement each other's sins and not condemn each other's deviations. But what the best captain, I think, for my vessel is my soul, because my soul prevents me from hunting after my urges, and it directs the vessel toward the meaning through the stormy oceans, against the winds and against the waves. Because the soul knows what's the point of life. It knows it needs meaning. It needs something and far, far ahead to be able to reach. It needs meaning of life. And I think we can only find meaning of life when we accept that we have soul, because once we experience suffering as the result of this ability to understand meaning of life, the suffering gives us the right wind and the right waves to navigate through the oceans toward this meaning. And I'm really concerned that we try to step away from suffering. We try to defeat suffering completely. We think that if we don't have suffering in the world, then we somehow is going to live happy. But how you can define happiness without suffering? How you can define goodness without evilness? How you can appreciate beauty without ugliness? I think the world where we defeat suffering will become mediocre, will become flat. Even great piece of art provoke in you suffering when you watch something powerful paintings, or read a powerful book, or watch a powerful movie, or listen to a powerful piece of music. It gives you a certain internal amount of suffering that we need, because sometimes too much is too much. And the tears in our eyes is in some sense when our soul overfilled with awe, or something that almost impossible to express in the words, and therefore we express it in our emotions. And once it's gone, when everything is flat, when there's no suffering, there's no happiness, and when there's no pain, there's no overcoming of this pain, then there's no meaning, there's nothing. It's kind of death, because life is a struggle with impossible, because we assign meaning to ourselves with our own life. Viktor Frankl said something that I keep repeating to myself because it became something very crucial for me. It doesn't matter what you want from life, it matters what life wants from you, because you have to figure out what your life wants from you. But it's usually suffering, because you have to go against all odds and overcome your own personal struggle. You don't look for suffering voluntarily. You look for meaning, and often the road toward this meaning lies through overcoming such an amount of suffering. Otherwise, I don't think it's even possible to discover deepness within yourself. And if you have life filled with meaning, but somehow with no suffering, good for you, because maybe it's possible. I don't know. But what makes me concerned is people's idea of flat life. Life that doesn't belong to us. Life where we only see things, but not participate in things. Life where we watch this life through the screen. It's real and it's not real at the same time. Where we're obsessed with the suffering of others through the devices we keep monitoring daily. But we never take a look at our own self and try to understand what exactly the point of our life. And I think the point is discovering your own soul, your own substance, and try to understand this substance, try to understand yourself, and try to figure out, why am I here? Animals, some of the animals can recognize themselves in the mirror, can recognize such marks on their faces. But the problem with this, we not only can recognize the mark on our face, we have recognition of this recognition. We have this metacognition. We can think about our own thoughts, and we can recognize our own recognition. We can be above of this recognition. And we have to use it because it's important. We have to look at ourselves from a different perspective to be able to figure out the world and our position in this world. And that's why I'm very concerned when people try to flat, because we become moral relativist. We start thinking that good and bad is nothing. It depends who's in charge of the doctrine of good and bad. And we losing the center of our moral framework, because in the center of a moral framework is our God. And you cannot have morals if you don't have God in the center, because you always worship something. Even communism places their dictators in the center and created morality around those dictators to appease those dictators, because you have to appease to something or to someone with your morals. You don't appease to each other or to yourself, you appease to dictators or to your God. When you appease to the God, it's usually correct morals, because they were tested by time through traditions and rituals and experience that worked. But once you install an idol, a person, a dictator, then you create morality that kills, the genocide. That's what communism did. And that's why we're struggling right now, because we took God from equation. And now we try to fill this empty spot inside of this moral framework and inside of ourselves with ideology, with this mediocre idea that everything is irrelevant, that we can, like, all cultures are equal, all religions are equal, everything is equal, and there's no spike of something magnificent. Even beauty turned into ugliness, and ugliness turned into more ugliness. And goodness can observe evilness, it can try to save it, but evilness will never save goodness. It can only give it fake hug to destroy it in the end. And we'll let it happen, because we have to learn to discriminate. We have to take responsibility for our moral framework, for our civilization, for our God, for our ritual, for our traditions. Because if we don't take responsibility for everything that matter to us, it stops matter. And if it doesn't matter, it disintegrates into nothingness, leaving us empty and useless and broken and depressed, because depression is the inability to move, is the inability to discriminate between good and bad. It's inability to stand behind your own self, because your own self stopped existing and you don't know who you are any longer, and you try to find ideology to fill this emptiness, but any ideology just gives you more emptiness that filled with hatred toward your own self. Because whatever you do it wrong, since there's no God within you. And with God, you don't have no traditions. Because the idea of God is so important, and we'll lose this understanding how important it is. We need rituals. We need daily rituals to practice our traditions. And then we have to teach our kids to those traditions, to let them practice, because we have to practice our life. We have to practice our rest. We have to practice every single thing within and without ourselves. Without practice, we're lost, because life is too huge and we have so many things to attend to. We need to learn to discriminate what is more important and what is not important. And now we have these devices, these iPhones that compete for our attention, and we don't know to what we have to pay attention to. Have you tried to select a movie on Amazon? It's almost impossible. You have thousands of movies and you don't know what you should select. Because the more you have, the less you're able to select. The more is not better. It's not always better. The more sometimes becomes confusing, and you just don't know what you can do to find the right movie, or to find the right book, or to find the right goal in your life. Because if you follow everyone, you in some sense follow no one. You can sometimes search for the movie for hours, wasting the entire evening, and never find the right one. We have to be very careful in this, because life is incredibly limited, while opportunities around us are unlimited. And often we spend our years, our precious years, in this limitless abundance of opportunities that we'll never explore because of our own personal limitation. I don't know, but I think something is missing in us, and we have to find what is missing. I think our soul is missing, and I think with our soul we miss the goal, the meaning itself. And all this abundance, all this comfort that we have right now doesn't help us to become better, doesn't help us to understand ourselves nor the world. What it helps us to play, it places us in some sense in some sort of spiritual hibernation, where we keep sleeping in comfort, half awake maybe, just to see that the world is still here. But it seems like we're not a part of the world any longer. We just observe the world. We observe a relationship among other people. We observers of the world we don't belong to. And even our observer in some sort of spiritual hibernation, because it doesn't have control over us, since our bodies obsessed with addictions that we keep satisfying constantly, since the entire entertainment industry was designed to create in us more and more addictions. The same with the food industry, drug industry. Everything has been designed for our bodies, and not a single thing designed for our soul. And that's where emptiness comes, because soul need practice too, like everything else.